Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for coming on over to Out on a Limb with Gabby Allen. You guys, seriously, I am so excited. I have Reese Ryan. We have just been laughing until I'm pretty sure a little bit of my jaw hurts. That's not going to stop me from talking, but here we go. So, we only have one question that we start out with. Let's get into it with Reese. Reese, what is it that you do and how do you do it?
I write sexy, emotional, grown folks romantic fiction featuring lots of family drama,
Yes,
surprising
you
secrets,
do.
and a cast of complicated, sometimes messy characters. How I do it is with passion and chaos, basically.
Yeah.
I wish there was some better answer, but
No, that is so funny. So that is spot on. I when I have one of your books, my husband knows to just walk away because he'll be like, "Are we having oh, are you reading another Reese Ryan book? All right, well, how far are you?" And I'm like, "I don't know, like halfway." He's like, "All right, I guess I'll just go order something." And I'm like, "Yeah, that would be a better idea. Make sure you pick
I
it up
apologize, sir.
and sit well." There's no apology necessary. But you really do. And I love the grown folks part. What made you decide to kind of move that way?
I feel like if when I really think about like if even going back to like my first book, I feel like was probably the heroine was I think was in her 30s.
Mm,
So almost from the start, I've been pretty
yes.
much writing people who are in their 30s. I think most of the characters that I've written, and it's only a handful that I've written that are under 30,
Mm,
was because I was like part of a continuity or something where the,
okay.
the person's age was defined
Yes.
by the publisher or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
because of the story that was being written. But pretty
Right.
much now that I'm thinking about it, like I didn't really realize that before. Like I knew I was leaning into it because I'm getting older. I'm 51. And so
I
I knew
still
that.
cannot believe that. I just like I honestly, and I am not messing with you. I honestly thought that you would be in your 40s.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
That's
I
very, very kind.
I am overwhelmed by the wow.
Hey, and I'm pretty sure my knees are 67.
Oh
So
well. Apparently my heart is a little older than I thought it was too. So I totally get you.
but yeah, I just never realized it from, like I said, from the very beginning, that's what I've written. But when my first book was, published, I was already, even when even first started writing again, writing
Yeah.
fiction again, I was in my late 30s, mid to late 30s.
Yes.
And so by the time I think I was published, I must have been in my 40s. So
Okay.
that's probably what, was led to the fact that I was writing characters
Yeah.
who sadly in romance landia are considered older.
I know,
But
you're right. You're like, wow, 30s is older.
yeah,
I
they're
am.
like,
What does that make
really?
me? Are we like? Are we going through the alphabet? Can I be ancient or am I decrepit? Like, are we just skipping right over the B and the C in a coffin? Yeah,
That's still so bizarre to me that we,
yes,
even that in romances that's
yeah,
considered older. But yeah, so like pretty much every character
crazy.
that I've written have been characters that are like in their at least probably their 30s period. I've been leaning more toward like mid 30s for a while.
Okay,
And lately I have a few books where there's my first was a hero that was 40, and
yes,
then I have one where she's 45 and he's 50. So
I love it.
um yeah,
I
yeah,
love it.
that has been, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, and I think I think not everybody always thinks far enough out. So to me, somebody who's in their 20s, maybe they just finished college, maybe they went to trade school or whatever, they don't have a lot of baggage. You're getting into your 30s, you're getting into your 40s. If you're looking for romance right in your 40s, most likely you have some pretty solid relationships behind you. It's not that you got left at the altar at 18 years old by some guy who, was your boyfriend for 6 months. You probably have some solid stuff, which then brings in your complicated people, which are fascinating.
And that's another reason I enjoy writing, I think, older characters, is because
Yeah.
you do well, first of all, like I like to debunk something that because I remember hearing somebody say something about or maybe it was a tweet or something I read years ago, and someone said something similar to like you know, they can't understand why somebody would want to read about an older character. Like you should have your shit together if you're whatever, right? And I'm thinking, sweetie. Oh, honey.
Yeah, come on over. Let's talk about this.
That's not how this works at all. So, like, you know, whether it's a person for whatever reason, you know, your life has changed in some way, or maybe your life has been about what you thought, what other people wanted for you. And now you're at a stage where like, what do I want for myself? This happens all the time. And so like, I love exploring that. And I, you know, one of the tropes that works well with older characters is second chance.
Oh yeah.
Which I knew it was in my top 5, but I'm just like really starting to realize that it's probably one of my really top tropes that I like writing because they're, you know, you can just mine all of these hurt emotions from the past. And, you know, like you said, people have so many experiences, whether it's past relationships or job stuff, whatever.
Yes.
There's just so much to work with.
Well, and look, I am a second chance romance, kind of, sort of. But I met my husband in 9th grade. We, you know, did not actually date. I tried asking him to the winter formal in 12th grade and he said no. And I thought it was because he didn't like me. And then I find out later that he couldn't afford a tux or a limo. And that's why. And I'm like, we could have at least whatever.
Oh, wow. That's like real romance novel stuff right there.
Right. So, but we started dating when I was 19 and we got married when I was 20. So while I had some stupid relationships previous to him, it's not the same kind of thing that you go through when you've been widowed, when you have had children and you devoted your life to them and now you're in an empty nest and your husband has left or you didn't have one. And now, like you said, it's time to start thinking about what do you want. And so I think like there's so much there to work with because there's so many different ways that you can bring that into a story. And they're all going to be different depending on who, and that's something that you're super good at, like whether or not it's a trope that I've already read. I never feel like I'm reading the same story. I always feel like you absolutely, it is. Believe me,
I do like
pleasure.
try to put a twist on things whenever, you know, as much as I can. So like, for instance, you know, just like different tropes. Like I remember back in the day as a reader, even I was like, I'll never read Secret Baby. And so then I came up with this idea for a Secret Baby story with a twist. And so like I've written like 3 Secret Babies or seasons. So, but you know, or the Marriage of Convenience. So like I was like, at some point I was like, I could never write a Marriage of Convenience in contemporary romance. It just doesn't work. And now in this year alone, I've written 2.
And
they both, I feel like they both have a twist on them, you know, kind of
absolutely.
So
absolutely. Well, and that is one of the things that I think you very much bring to the table is the ability to give me something that I could have read before, but there's no way it's going to be the way that you've written it. And that's exciting because there are certain tropes, I think, that are expected within romance, but just like cliches, they're there for a reason. People like them, but what they want is your take on them. They don't want to read the same one over and over again. They want the Reese one. And I think that you deliver on those, and I absolutely love them. Seriously, it is one of those things where even my kid was, when she was here, she was like, am I supposed to make my own lunch? I'm like, well, you really should make your own lunch anyway, because you're 20. But beyond that, yes. Oh, and make me something too.
Okay, you made me one too. Yeah.
Right. Put it here at my elbow, and when I'm at the end of a chapter, I'll think about picking it up. But I mean, and I love your characters. I love your characters experience. And I love the way that they're presented. And I mean, I'm so excited I have watched as you have gone from pretty much getting started. We talked about this earlier. We're not talking about years. Nobody asked. But
we're not talking years.
No, we're not talking
books.
years.
We're not going to talk years.
Books, yes. Years, no. Reese already told you how old she is. We're not going beyond that. That's fine. But to be able to see the start and to be able to still be with you in the middle of the journey it's just astounding. I love every second of it. Every post of yours, I'm just like, yes. And if you're not in the VIP lounge, then you're totally, I'm just saying. So we just got fun stuff in there.
I love the readers in the VIP lounge. Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you. That is really sweet. I appreciate that so much. That really means a lot to me.
I love it. I love it.
Well, I'm glad you like the characters, and I agree about, tropes being like, some people, usually it's people outside of romance that talk down about tropes. Because let's be honest, there's tropes in other genres too. They just act like it's just romance, whatever. But
which is crap, because I actually have a book for fantasy, and it's called The Tough Guy's Guide to Writing Fantasy, I think. And it is an entire book of tropes involved in every single fantasy you've ever read. Like everybody eats like hardtack and cheese, and nobody ever mentions where they go to the bathroom or the fact that they haven't had a shower ever, and they've only bathed in the river twice in the last 6 months. And so it was interesting because I started in the romance world, still am in the romance world a little bit, but more the mystery. And so seeing something else in a different genre that poked fun at what we've been poked fun at for years, I was like, oh yeah, bring that on, because that's true and that's true. And I can name 42 novels that say that exact thing. So I mean, but I am less, and I feel like you're this way too, I am less concerned with what people out there are saying. I am far more concerned with pleasing the people who are reading my books.
I completely agree. And again, that's another reason why I feel like tropes are so beneficial, because it does really help people to find the books that suit them, that they, if you're a person who loves second chance romance, and some people are, then it's going to have second chance. I personally like to play with tropes a lot. So I really like to match them up. Right. And it can't just be a second chance. So it has to be a second chance, enemies to lovers, marriage of convenience, childhood sweets. I gotta feel all that stuff in a way that feels organic. That's the main thing for me. It's like, okay, I want all these tropes and all this goodness and all this conflict and drama and stuff, but it also needs to feel organic. And so I do usually look at, like, if I write a story and it's just got 2 tropes, I'm a little sad. Like, okay, what else can I write? Like, what else makes sense? Like, what else could really fit and make sense?
Where's my kitchen sink? I need a kitchen sink in here somewhere. Oh my gosh. But I think especially for romance readers, there is a certain expectation. They know that it's going to be a happily ever after, or at least a happy for now. They know that's why they're reading it. I think people miss that, especially the people that are not necessarily appreciative of the romance. Will be nice and say not as appreciative as they could be of the romance genre. Miss the fact that a lot of people read these because it's escapist fiction, and it is they know what the ending is going to be. They're here for the middle. They're here for, how do they work through the stuff that they have? How do they make a second chance work? How do they introduce the secret baby? I will say, the one trope that I have always been like, is the amnesia one.
So right now, I'm still like that too.
Okay.
I was like that about Secret Baby and Marriage of Convenience a few years ago. So don't quote me on this.
I'm not. Well, and I think often that when you say I'll never do that, that is the exact next thing that you're going to do. So I've never actually said it. That's how I roll. You know,
I feel like the story for me, I is never gonna, for me, I would never say I'm gonna write an amnesia story. It would have to be a story idea would come to me
yes.
in which amnesia played a role. And then I'm like,
Okay.
okay, I'm gonna tell that story. That's
All
how the
right.
secret baby one started. It was like, okay, I'm gonna do a secret baby, but the secret baby, the love interest is not going to be the mother who hid
Right.
the pregnancy. It's the aunt because the mother is deceased, and so that's
Nice.
how first story I ended up
Yes.
writing as a secret baby. And so
Right.
I wrote one later where it was actually that person, but it wasn't a long time. So it just whatever worked for you. And like I said, one of the biggest compliments for me is when somebody says, because I have a genuine secret baby.
Yeah.
And that's book 2 of Bourbon Brothers series, The Billionaire's Legacy. And so whenever somebody reads that book and says to me, I love that book, I don't even like Secret Baby. I'm like, yes.
Yay, I won on that one. And it is, I mean, I try really hard. So there are certain authors that they're auto buys. That's just all there is to it. I mean, you put it out, it says grocery list. I don't care. I'm gonna buy that too. Certainly there must be something on there that I missed in your last book. But I think that, I will take a chance on something if I trust you as an author, because I have loved all of your other things. I would trust you on an amnesia story. Don't go writing one right now, but I would. But I think, because your core stories, no matter what tropes are there, and no matter how whatever framework you're using to tell the story of these two people, there are two people that I not only admire, there are not only two people that I really, really, really want to win, but there are two people in there that I would give anything to see them be able to overcome what they have going on and make a life for themselves. And so if that's a secret baby, then that's a secret baby. Now I might not take a chance on a secret baby on an author that I don't know, because I'm not sure that you're gonna do all the things that I like, but you have seriously strong characters. So when you do you do any kind of character sketch or anything like that ahead of time, or do you just like, okay, I know I want marriage of convenience, second chance, secret baby, my characters' names are this and this, let's roll? Like, how do you start that?
I am definitely a character person. So and I do
but you can tell
really,
that in your story.
Thank you. I really do delve into the character. So I remember early in my career, probably before I was published. Yeah, it had to be before I was published. In my local RWA chapter, Cherry Adair had visited us and talked about talked about using astrological signs.
Yes.
And at the time I'm like, yeah, I'm not into astrology. I'm like, whatever. So like I was like, I'll try it. And so because before that I had tried a couple like character sheets where you fill out all the different things. And I think for my first book or two, I had done that. So maybe I hadn't been published, but maybe I was under contract or something. And so anyway, I had done like the character sheets and stuff. And like answer 1,000 questions, whatever. So, but then for me,
I don't know what color his favorite blanket was when he was
I know. And I will say though, in one book, one of those weird questions like that, was like your first kiss or something, that actually led to a very important scene in the book for me. So that did work. But generally speaking, what I love about using the astrological signs is, especially the one I use, which is horoscope.com. It gives you all aspects of the person's personality. So there's like personality, love, friends and family or whatever. So it gives you all these different aspects of their personality. And so I will kind of mine the profile. Like I'll look, they have this, but not that. And I know when she was talking about it, she was like, you can just pick one and stay with it or whatever. For me personally, if it doesn't jive with who I see the character is, I will find something else that I think fits better. Right. But I love that. And the thing I've added in recent years is character wound. Really delving into that. And And so, yeah, that really does help a lot to make the character feel like, a flesh and bone kind of person
Yeah.
with all these different aspects of their personality.
Yeah.
We are not, we don't come about in a vacuum. We don't become who we are in a
No.
vacuum. All these different things in our lives
Yeah.
have a bearing on it. And that's another reason why in my stories, I have usually a pretty strong cast of secondary characters,
Yes.
is because all these other interactions and stuff show
You
us who
need
we
them.
are.
Right.
We become who we are, we see who we are,
Yes.
all these things about these interactions that we have, whether it's a bad boss, a horrible breakup, whatever it is, we learn a lot about ourselves over time through those things. So that's the reason why I love having these big cast of characters to play with. So.
Well, and a lot of times you're a different person with different people. Yes. And so you if you have a bad boss, you're going to be a different person with your bad boss than you are with your best girlfriend. Right. Those are two different things. And so being able to have a secondary cast that highlights the different things and how well-rounded that person is, because they're not just a little cardboard that you're moving around because you need them to be on this scene on page 126. Oh, and I gotta have you here for page 135. Make sure you show up there for 156. Because then they become people. Yes. And I think that really shines through to readers. I've had a lot of people who, in kind of the same vein, who are like, yeah, I don't usually read mystery, but when's the next tally coming out? I don't know. I wasn't planning on putting another one out. And they're like, oh, that's the wrong answer. And
that is the best. So when you get somebody who's like, I don't read this or I don't read that or whatever, to be like, wow, yes. Yeah.
Because it almost feels like you've jumped an additional hurdle. Not only have you brought them something that they would have appreciated because they're a romance reader, but now you've brought them something that they appreciated that they didn't think they'd want to appreciate.
Yeah.
And I love that, because I feel like, and then I kind of feel bad because some people will be like, oh my gosh, I totally loved your in your case your secret baby book, and then they go read a different secret baby book and they're like, that wasn't.
I look at it the other way. I feel like I've opened up this whole new world to them, and I'm always excited about that. So like that's one of the reasons too, like you mentioned my reader group, the Reese Ryan VIP Reader Lounge.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons why it was important to me to, have authors come and visit regularly to the lounge. And also, you'll often see me share, like somebody has a sale on one of their books, or, this introduce this author or another, or on the YouTube show. And one of the things I love is hearing a reader say to me, hey, I started reading, Karen Booth or Joss Wood or whatever, because you introduced them to them, and they're one of my favorite authors now. Yeah. That makes me so freaking happy.
Absolutely. Well, and the fact that they trust you. They trust you not only with your books, but they trust you to then guide them towards another book that they like. Right now, I'm having a lot of, and it's so interesting to me, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I have Kensington put out the Much Ado About Nauticaling, which is under the Gabby Allen name. And they're calling it rom cozy, which I'm like, give that to me. That's fine.
Interesting. I love it.
Yeah, well, I've written
I have to write that down. I like that.
So I've been writing rom-com cozy since 2005, but nobody wanted them because they didn't fit in the rules of the traditional cozy. Because traditional cozy, they don't like any touching, nothing above the or below the shoulders, and any kiss needs to be completely emotional, not physical at all. I did not know any of those rules when I wrote my first 6 books. So you got a whole lot of all that. And there are some people who love them, and that's awesome. Then I wrote some traditional ones. Then my editor is S.E. Soga at Kensington, who I adore. Yes, she's wonderful. And so I had been going to these conventions, and I'm like, look, I am getting a lot of younger readers, and they want flawed characters, and they want flawed romances.
Yeah.
Can I please write something like that. And she's like, well, let me take it to the board and see kind of, all right, fine. So like 4 months later, she comes back and she's like, well, we have Much Ado, and we're hearing this too. I do want to see if you can do it. Do you mind trying with Much Ado About Nauticling? And I was like, hey, why don't I just go ahead and send you my original manuscript? And she was like, you're what? And I said, that's how I write them, and then I fix them to be traditional because that's what you want. And she was like, oh, now I can't wait for this. So then when they were marketing them, do you know who they gave all my arcs to? Romance readers.
Oh, wow.
And Instagram was absolutely flooded with people saying, I have never read a cozy mystery before and I cannot wait to pick up more.
Oh my gosh, that's
and
so
I was
awesome.
like, so in the same way, I hopefully have now crossed some people into taking a chance on some other books because it's not something they would normally read, but because they found it or got it from Kensington, now they're going to try something else. I read whatever you want, just read.
I absolutely love that, and I'm glad you said, because I am even though I write romance and mostly read romance, what we watch mostly, because my husband and I watch a ton of mysteries. What we watch a lot of the cozy mysteries too, like on Hallmark and stuff. Hallmark movie and mystery channel, let me put it that way.
Right.
And so the thing is, and as a matter of fact, whenever I decide, okay, I'm gonna change from this streaming plan to that one, first thing I have to look at is, do they have Hallmark movie and mystery channel? If they do not, it is not an option.
Yeah, no, I got you.
But we also really like the British mysteries.
Did you watch Midsummer Murders?
Which one? Yeah, I do watch Murders, and I like it. I like the show, but I'm like, why does nobody tell you that is a serial killer show? Because every single episode, there's like 3 to 5 murders. I'm like, it's about serial killers, and it's rarely more than multiple people. It's usually one person, which is a serial killer. So like, why are you not telling me this? But the show is great, and I love it. But the shows we love the most are Murdoch Mysteries, which is a Canadian show.
Yes.
I absolutely adore the Frankie Drake Mysteries, which is also a Canadian show. It's about women in the 1920s in Toronto, and I love that they have agency and that they're doing all these amazing things, even though men are trying to keep them down. And I love it, love it, love it so much. Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries. I'm so sad it's only three seasons.
That last one though, the very last, my poor husband, because it was the last episode, and I was like, come on, you can't leave me.
I know. I was so heartbroken about it. And so I love that. Father Brown, love that show. We just really got into watching the Poirot. And so we watched all of those, and we were sad when that was done. And so, we Death in Paradise. So like we watch all of these shows. And so I've been saying forever that I'm going to write a mystery series. But the thing is, I'm always like this kind of a rebel. And so like I want to do that, but at the same time I want to make it sexy. So like just with the small town, I'm doing small town, but I want to make it sexy.
Right. But, well, and I think we're a little ready for that.
I think so too.
We'll have to talk.
And I think readers have indicated they're ready for it as well.
Yeah, I think maybe we might have to talk off camera about that a little more, because
we'll chat. We'll definitely chat.
I think we need to chat, because I think people are ready for it. I think the publishing houses are afraid that it won't work. But I get a lot of feedback that's like, so Poison Ivy, the Ivy Morris mysteries from 2005, they literally take you all the way up to the door. I mean, you can still kind of peek in a little bit. I'm just saying, because I didn't know if I was allowed to go all the way in, and so I just left it. The second book starts with her making penis cookies for an adult toy party. Okay, I mean, let's just go there, and people love them. I oh my gosh, so I did this. I got asked to do it was a book club, and I was like, sure, I'll come to your book club, absolutely. And so I forgot to ask what book they were reading, And then I did at the end, and I was like, what book did you guys read? And they're like, Poison Ivy. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, it was at an athletic club. So I was like, I'll be fine. I walk in, I kid you not, there was nobody there under 75 years old. And I was like, oh no, I am either going to get my ass handed to me for being too sexy, or they're going to like love it.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, they loved it.
Yes.
They were like,
I have found that. Like I
so
thought
much fun.
Definitely, I write hotter. And so, a lot of times, I think that, okay, they're not going to like it. They're not going to like it. But it is what it is. But they love it. They've loved it. So I'm grateful.
Absolutely. And I really think that there is room for that out there. I think that the publishers will take a while to get on board because they're not certain how much of a community they could serve with that, and they do have to look at the numbers differently than we
I'm kind of having
readers.
a debate about that right now where I am, because I am writing, I'm writing small, like I have been writing for years, contemporary romance set in a small town, but it's not small town, quote unquote. And so so now I'm writing small town, quote unquote, and it's being marketed as sexy small town. I'm like, okay, you want sexy? I'm gonna give you sexy. So we're kind of having that debate about how much sexy is too sexy. I think you definitely need to look at reader expectations.
Yes.
You're right. It's going to be sexy. Then it needs to be sexy.
Right. However, there
I think a lot about you. So
but there are readers who love the cozy mystery aspect because you get the justice, but they love the romance because they want a little bit of rockiness. And then they want a little bit of the double entendre. I mean, even in Tally Graver, can I tell you how? So the first Tally Graver is called Cremains of the Day, and Essie came back and she was like, and I was like, if you are talking about the end of the first chapter, don't even, because so Tally finds her ex-husband tased in an alley, and he's been tased in the boy parts. And so the cop comes out and he says, oh, boss, he got tased in the balls. And so the cop looks at her and he's like, I'm really sorry. And she's like, that's okay, I wasn't using them anyway. And I was like, I'm not taking that out. That is who I am. Can you please leave me there? Please. And so they did. And people have been like, that made me snort tea out of my nose. And I was like, I am not apologizing for that.
I love it. And it reminded me of what you were saying about earlier about how, you write the book the way you want to write it and then you fix it to their expectations. Well, when I was writing the first small town, I'm like trying to dim it down, as the sexiness. And so like it was really hampering me. And so then so by the time I got to like about the 2/3 or maybe, whatever halfway point, I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to do what I do. And if they don't want it, we can fix it, in the editing. Well, they kept in all the sexiness. And I'm like, well, if I had known that, I would have put the sexiness in the first part too. So, what I'm saying? But it definitely that is hampering if you try to like bend like a pretzel to like fit expectations, and it's just not you.
Right.
So, I mean, I feel like, first of all, you need to know who you are and your voice and all that kind of stuff. And of course, you need to know reader expectations. You need to fit reader expectations. But, I think that when you start playing too much with the author's voice, and their style and stuff, then you lose all of the reasons you wanted that author in the first place. So,
and then there's that, and I think, look, I'm totally on board with the reader expectation. I am not going to list Ivy as a traditional cozy mystery, because I would much rather you not read it because it's sexy than read it because I tricked you into reading it, and then you're disappointed and you don't ever read anything else from me because you don't trust me. And I write paranormal also. Right now I have a series. You want to talk about not being what your parents thought you were going to be. And so every single person who works at this Renaissance fair cannot do the one thing that they were born to do. And so like my werewolf can only change his nose and his tail, which that's kind of embarrassing. I call it the island of misfit toys, in paranormal. And so all of these people are figuring out, well, then who am I if I'm not? Because a lot of their families have disowned them because they're not what they were supposed to be. And I have loved it. But when I do a book signing, if somebody comes up and they're like, oh, I love cozy mystery. And I'm like, well, how do you feel about paranormal? Oh, I don't do that. Then stay away from these two roads.
Yes.
I would rather you read something that you're going to love, because I've actually had people say, I did try out your adventures in ghost sitting and that was really funny. And I'm thinking, you're the one who was absolutely not going on paranormal. But then, like Secret Babies, bringing our conversation all the way around, because that's how I do. They trust you.
Yeah.
And they look at the back and they're like, oh, I mean, it's just ghosts. It's not like, vampires or something. I'll try. And then they get hooked because they trust you and they trust your voice. And, unfortunately for some people, because my books are written in first person, once they hear me talk, apparently it's like when they're reading it, it's my voice in their head. And I'm like, ooh, I will apologize for that. I don't apologize for snorting tea out your nose, but I will apologize for the voice in your head. That's got to be kind of sad. But to me, that's the whole point of being an author. It is to connect with some people that you will never, ever, ever meet in your whole life. But there is something about your story that calls to them, and then it calls to them enough that they want to read anything you put out, because there's a part of you that gets them.
Yeah.
That's just
one of the most surreal things for me, I think, at this stage of my career is when somebody says that I'm one of their favorite authors. That is like just mind blowing for me. And this somebody would even say that, but and I absolutely hear what you're saying about, you want, like, just like I can tell you what my brand is, because I've come to the point where I understand what my brand is like. And so even in the editing process, sometimes I'm like, okay, this is part of my brand.
Right.
So like the secrets, that's part of my brand. So we're not going to tell everything up front. No. So you need to know that. But I'm also a person who will tell you, you shouldn't read me if you don't like certain, like, if you don't want it sexy, okay, probably don't read me. If you don't like, a whole bunch of family drama and extra characters, you probably don't want to read me. You're not into like career stuff, and you probably don't want to read me. That's okay.
Yeah.
There's my friends out there who you will really, really enjoy.
And then there's that. So I, especially at like book signings and stuff, I will try to go around and find out what other people are writing, so that if somebody comes to me, or I have friends that I know write specific things. So if somebody says, well, I love erotic romance, I'm like, yeah, I am not your girl. I wrote one erotic romance story back in like 2004. Let's just throw out there that the book itself is called Paranaughty. We'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. Don't go look for it. It's not for sale anywhere.
Don't go look for it.
Please don't go look for it. But so I will say, ooh, you know what? 3 tables down, I know Brianna down there, and she writes. Woo! If you write,
yeah,
have a fan with you.
No, I love it.
That,
I love it.
Or they'll say, well, I really, my thing is like family drama, and I'm like, okay, seriously, Reese Ryan, go get it over there. That's where, because I don't do that. So knowing, I get it's a trust issue. Because funny enough, sometimes they will take a chance on you because you pointed them to somebody that they love. They'll come back and say, oh my gosh, I totally love that. Are you sure you don't have anything? And I'm like, well, I mean, this is what I write. And they're like, oh, well, I'll try that. And then they email me and they're like, I snorted tea out of my nose. And I'm like, okay, well, the question is, were you wearing a white shirt? Because if you were wearing a white shirt, then I might apologize, but probably not. So anyway, I mean, I think, we're out here doing our best to not only entertain. I'm going to date myself and say that I call myself Calgon. because I am going to take you away, because there's a lot going on. And
Yes.
if you can pull somebody out of all of the things in their life for just a half an hour here or there, or 5 minutes. I love those people who have the pants hangers from Kohl's, and they actually put their book in the pants clips, and then
Really?
yes, and they hang it on their cabinets above what they're cooking.
Oh, wow. I
I
have
know. I'm
not
like,
seen that before.
woo! Yeah,
Okay, that's
if I
commitment. I love
can
it.
find a picture, I'll send it to you. But but those are the people that we're writing for. The ones
Mm,
who feel like, I mean, I'm writing for all of them, but I love being able to um, touch people's lives who they just need a break, just for a
yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
And even if it's, even if it's laughing that somebody just fell into a dumpster because they're dead, that's sad, but it's what I do. And I generally make it funny. Or if they're looking for family drama that's not their family drama, they
Yeah.
come to
Yeah.
you. And it's
Because
all
yeah.
survivable. In your books, it's all survivable. And
And the
so
other thing I like about it too, though, is like, even though I do write about things that can be really tough and,
yeah,
difficult or whatever, but the thing I love is being able to basically show people, hey, what these terrible things can happen to you, and you still, can
thrive.
find your happy ending. You can
Yes,
still get your happy ending.
it's hope.
So I do love that, and I also love
Yeah.
the aspect of it of being able to show people how other people live,
Yeah.
so I
Oh,
think that
I
there are a
love
lot of people
that.
in the world who like they have a hard time having empathy for anyone who doesn't look like them, who doesn't live in the kind of neighborhood
Oh,
they live in, who doesn't
okay.
have the kind of life that they have.
Right.
And so I think that it's a wonderful thing to me to be able to give
Absolutely.
people an opportunity to see other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I have been that kid at some point who we hardly ever left my neighborhood, except
Yes.
for when we did our annual trip to Tennessee,
Right.
for our family reunion. So I mean, I've been that person, so I get that.
Absolutely.
So even if you don't get a chance to travel far and wide, or whatever, you can still make it your business to learn about other people.
And that
And
is
that,
one of the things that I absolutely love about your stuff too. So I live in Pennsylvania now, but I grew up 13 to 29 or so in California, in a very diverse area. It was a huge culture shock for me, because I went from a town that I think we had two people in my whole elementary school that didn't look like me,
mm,
out of hundreds of students,
mm-hmm.
to me being, a handful of people looked like me and everybody else didn't. And I
Mm-hmm.
tried really hard to understand all the things that were going on. And we lived kind of close to LA, we lived close to San Diego, and then we were also right inland from Camp Pendleton, which is a Marine base. And
Mm-hmm.
so you have all kinds of people who come in and out of there. And
Mm-hmm.
so reading your books gives me a perspective that, even with being in different kinds of neighborhoods over the course of many years, we're not talking about how many years, but it gives me a different perspective, and it's one that I very, very much enjoy. And you have such a, I keep feeling like I'm having fangirl moments, and I just don't care.
Thank
So
you.
you very much, how do I want to put that? You make me feel a part of things, even as I know that this is not my experience. I get to feel like I'm not only am I learning, but I'm also welcome.
I love that. I love
And
that.
yeah, and that's wonderful, because as we talked about previous to going on camera, I am very pale. I have very blonde hair, and there's a lot of gray in here that doesn't look gray, but it is gray. And again, no ears. But you know, like your books are they're a beautiful gateway, I guess, into something that I will not personally experience, but I live vicariously through your characters, and it's pretty freaking awesome.
I appreciate that. And
Absolutely.
it's important to me, like to make it feel, you know, I want the experience to feel authentic to the characters, you know? And so, you know, sometimes there will be conversations
Yeah.
an editor or whatever about whether or not people will understand a certain thing, and I'm just like, Google is your friend. That's what I do when I heard somebody like, first of all, I love Friends. I haven't the show Friends. Right. I didn't see all the seasons because I came into it late or whatever.
That's
so
okay.
It's more toward the end. So anyway, but I had heard that somebody mentioned like the thing with the lobster or whatever. Yeah, and I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. Google is my friend. Okay, it was easy in seconds to find that out, and it goes the other way as well. So if I mention something that, or I phrase it in a way, I usually am pretty good about making it clear
from the context.
Kind of, you know, exactly. Yeah. But Google's your friend. So
yeah. Well, like, look, if you're reading
the situation, look it up.
If you're reading historical, and it's the first time that you've read a historical, and all of a sudden you come across a word like a police, Pelise, you can tell from the context what it is. Mm-hmm. Or you can run on over to your phone, which is probably right next to you, or perhaps
it's right.
And you can type in what that is. And you know what? Then you learned something today. I would run out and start calling everything a police. Like that's my other thing though, is that I do struggle sometimes with people who learn something and then all of a sudden it's theirs. And I'm like, no, that's not yours. You now know what it is, but it's not. There's an appropriate time to use certain things. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
That's all I'm saying.
And we're almost at an hour, so probably shouldn't go into that one. But they really are. They're different than me, but they're also you make such and I don't know if you make an effort to do this, but it feels like there's also a place for everyone, and I love that because it's just, you know, I mean, yes, we're different, but I'm different from a lot of people. And I that's
I was always a weird girl.
So that's me, high school. I wore plaid pants with suspenders, and then the next day I was wearing, you know, like little tight skirts with like crop tops, and then the following day I was wearing lumberjack shirts with Levi's 550s.
Oh my god, I was like the weirdest dresser, and I was like I didn't even know I was dressing weird. It's just that was me. That was my personality. It was colorful and just whatever.
I love it. I have a feeling that if we had grown up together so many years ago, we probably would have been like the twins. And we would have been like, you're looking fabulous today. And you're like, woo, you're looking fabulous too. And I'm like, well, let me tell you where I got my fantastic plaid pants. So So
I totally get that. Yep. Yeah. And you know, and I feel like that's a part of, I think, hopefully that also stems from me digging so deeply into the characters, because I try, you know, because I try to reveal just different things about them, whatever they're going through, and so that people do find commonalities to say, hey, you know, I have a cousin just like that that's so freaking annoying, or, you know, a similar boss situation or whatever, that you feel the character enough that you know, you connect with them, right, you know, and understand.
Well, you do a wonderful job on that. So just in case you were wondering that what your goal unlocked. Achievement unlocked, Reese.
Achievement unlocked.
You got this. I got
That
you.
makes me
You got
feel
this.
very
I
happy.
love it. Absolutely. Well, like I said, we are literally 8 minutes away from an hour now. But I knew this was going to happen. That's okay. It's all good. But I don't want to leave without asking you where we can find you and what we can pant for next.
Okay. Well, my most recent release was Just a Little Mary, which came out just recently, last week at this point.
Okay, seriously, go get that right now. Yeah, whatever she says next, you can listen, but I want you in a separate screen ordering at this moment to get it on your Kindle. But you do have to listen to the rest of what we say before you're allowed to start reading. So don't
that book
pause us.
is my modern marriage of convenience. It's also a second chance romance, but it's part of the Moonlight Ridge trilogy, which also includes these books, Homecoming Heartbreaker and Vestlade Wedding Plans, which me, Karen Booth, and Joss Wood actually created the entire trilogy and put it together and stuff and did it ourselves. And so we love these books and we love the stories. And so so I'm excited about that. And so the next thing that comes out for me is the final planned book in my Bourbon Brothers series, which is The Bad Boy Experiment, which is coming out December 28th. And it makes me sad to think that this is the end of the series. But the final sibling, Cole, will get his story at the end. And so,
that's the day before my birthday.
Is it really?
Yes. So I'll wait to read it until the day after my birthday.
Then I'm going to be sending you something for
this. Okay. Well, stop putting that out there for you, but I'm not going to say no.
That is awesome. I love it. I love it. That is fantastic. Perfect.
So Reese, I just always get your stuff on Facebook regardless. I know it's called VIP Lounge.
Okay, so where can you find me?
Right. What is it called actually?
So you can find me at reeseryan.com. That's REES as in Sam, ERYAN.com. And from there you can find all the other places I am, like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, because at all those places I'm at Reese Ryan Writes. And so so that's, I try to be consistent across all of the different social media platforms. At Reese Ryan Writes, you'll find me at all those. But you can also find me at The Story Behind the Story, which is my YouTube show.
I love
it. And it's where romance readers and authors connect. And we usually just have conversations just like this with different author friends. I have conversations with different author friends, and it's live. So readers are very much a part of the conversation. It's just a lot of fun, and we just get to know each other when we talk about some great books while we're doing it. So it's been lots of fun.
Good. And then once they find you on Facebook, they would be able to find
once they go to the website of reeseryan.com, it's got all those other things. You'll be drop down and you can go to YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all those places.
All the things. Okay. Good. I cannot thank you enough for being here today.
Thank you. You have just so y'all know, we talked for like a half an hour before we even got we had a whole half an hour conversation before the show started.
I hope you ate dinner because, or at least started it or something. I don't know. Because by this point, it's going to be like 7 before anybody gets anything done. That's okay. I actually literally put aside the whole afternoon. And I was like, I know that normally they're like an hour tops. I talk like 10, 15 minutes, get people comfortable, do like a 40-minute and then 10, 15 minutes as a lead out. And I was like, that's not gonna happen with Reese, right? So we should probably just give in to the inevitable, put aside a couple of hours, enjoy yourself, refill your well, which you totally have done for me, and I can't thank you enough. It was a little bit of a rough day this morning, and I kept thinking, all right, well, just get through it. It's almost 3:00, and then it you just are like this beautiful light, and I love it so much.
Thank you, because this has definitely been a light for me today. So I appreciate it. It's been just so great chatting with you. So
good. I love it, and I really hope that people seriously run out and get all the things. Just put aside. Tell everyone that there is no laundry service. You're not driving, and start ordering food now. because you're going to get sucked in, and I am not apologizing for that either.
That's right. After I finally finish these freaking revisions,
Yeah,
I'm gonna be reading some rom cozies.
there you go. Go for it. They're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun. They're a
Yes,
little
I
different.
love it.
A
I
little
love it.
different.
I am
So
so here for it.
we'll have to talk about the possible direction of the rom
Yes,
cozy.
yes, we shall.
So hey, stay tuned for another episode, maybe with Reese Ryan. So that, well, I'm gonna drag her back anyway, because I would really like to talk about other books and talk about more things. But oh, if we have cozy talk, we'll bring that to you. Oh,
So
right.
exciting. Yes.
Sleuthing with sass. I already grabbed that I already grabbed that website like ago. So who knows?
I love it.
Maybe I was aware of what was going on cosmically.
There you go.
According
Ahead of the curve.
my astrology chart. Oh, all right. I'm gonna let you go because we could probably do this for another hour. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Reese, so much for your time and your amazing books, and everything about you is fantastic. And I really am so thankful that we got to meet years and years ago. Don't ask. And yeah, and that we're here today, and that I get to see you on this beautiful, fantastic journey that I can't wait to see where it goes next. So absolutely. All right, so everybody look on www thank you .reeseryan.com. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I will make sure that Reese gets them, so that, you know, if you have any specific questions about things that we can help you learn, of course, we're going to try to be here for you for that. And I'll catch you next time. See you guys later. Have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, 3 a.m., whenever you're watching. I hope that the time after that is awesome.
Take care.
Bye-bye.